Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing the Assassin's Creed franchise on the GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. For performance monitoring, I'll be using CAM, excepting on Assassin's Creed 1. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. So the Assassin's Creed franchise, I'll be doing all the Assassin's Creed games, excepting Assassin's Creed Chronicles and Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry is a standalone DLC from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, so it runs pretty much the same. And I don't own Assassin's Creed Chronicles, and I wanted this video to be 30 minutes long max. And that's what this is 30 minutes long. So Assassin's Creed Chronicles is a side-scrolling game, so it shouldn't be that hard to run. But well, first we have Assassin's Creed 1. I'll be doing 4K with the maximum settings. I know, a game from 2008 runs at 4K, what a surprise. So we're getting over 60 frames per second all the time. Not really actually a surprise, but I wanted to show you how it ran by boosting the resolution up. And I have to say, the game still looks quite good, but you'll see very poor draw distances, especially in shadows. You'll see that the shadow resolution will start getting better and better as you get close to it. But yeah, not much else to say. I talk to you again in the next game.
You must die! Remember the But I say, this is an honor to die in service to God, fighting for what we believe in. There is no greater glory than this. Come see what I have to offer.
A few coins. All I ask is for a few coins.
Be more careful, I beg of you.
Oh my.
Don't do that again, understand? Get away with it!
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed 2 and I'm using 1440p because at 4K it drops below 60 frames per second when there's a lot of vegetation going on. So I just did the maximum settings at 1440p with 4 times MSAA, which most people will say is useless, and it is. But we had so much GPU power to spare here, and the game is kept at 60 frames per second, that I decided to use it anyway. If you're very close to the 1440p monitor, you might see a small difference. But if you want to turn off multi-sampling, just do it. And if you don't mind drops into the 40s at 4K, just do 4K and you'll be fine. But yeah, not much else to say about this one. It also has very poor draw distances on characters, surfaces, and shadows, which stay fixed on the Ezio collection on PS4 and Xbox One, sadly not on PC, so this is what we got. I'll talk to you again in the next game.
Let go! Leave me alone. Please, leave me alone.
Healing services for all the gods' flock.
Where is that?
There he is! Raju!
That one is Vic.
Stop it, ragazzi!
That's a fun outfit.
Die! He won't get far!
Soon you'll provide great as a swinging eye.
That's it!
Most entertaining.
Next week's following mass in Cardinal will have to be cancelled due to a small outbreak of plague. Pray for his recovery and the confinement of the Dread Death.
I'm beautiful! I want so much. You guys, you like it on.
che diavolo! Release me! Get back! Whatever I did to deserve this punishment, I'm sorry!
Good Dragonato wishes to remind all honest
Idiot, I know. You don't need to remind me.
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and again 1440p max settings 4x MSAA, the same as Assassin's Creed 2, but this one has unlocked frame rates, which is good, but again at 4K you'll get drops below 60 frames per second in very specific parts, so I recommend avoiding it, unless you don't care about dropping into the 40s or something like that. Other than that, 1440p or lower is totally fine at the maximum settings. I'll talk to you again in the next game.
Be ready to fight. What are you doing? Saving you on the left.
Not bad for an old man.
Agreed. You still have some skill.
Buona questa.
Excellent. Good one. Impressive. Where did he? There! Get him!
Being a Brotherhood, I've been behind so many things.
What on earth is he up to?
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed Revelations, and once again 1440p 4x MSAA, the same as Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, but this time around I noticed drops below 60 frames per second no matter what, even if I played at 720p. It seems that this game, when you're looking far into the distance in a place that there is a lot of detail, the game doesn't take full advantage of the CPU. I noticed that the G4560 runs it better than this, so this game seems to just run better with improved single-threaded performance. And once again at 4K we drop below 60 frames per second, that's why I just avoided 4K. Still playable, don't get me wrong, but I was trying to maintain 60 frames per second when possible. Here it drops every now and then, but it seems to be just due to the CPU and how the game uses it. I'll talk to you again in the next game.
Total disrespect for propriety. Really?
What was that?
You should go find peace. Where?
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed 3, and unfortunately I had the bug that the resolution option doesn't show up in the menu, so I had to edit a config file into the documents folder in order to make it run at the resolution I wanted. And well, by just lowering the anti-aliasing quality to the minimum, I was able to maintain 60 frames per second pretty much all the time. There might be a couple drops here and there in Boston, but it's not really much of a problem. A lot of people have trouble with this game because it was very poorly optimized, but so far on my end, using NVIDIA GPUs, I didn't have much of a problem at all. Just make sure to have a CPU that has very high single-threaded performance, since this game doesn't seem to take full advantage of more than 2 or 3 cores, but I recommend to try it out with those settings. The game is running just fine, and if you want a performance boost, just lower shadows one step down, but shadows and anti-aliasing in this game had a huge performance hit. Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and this time around I'm using 1080p because this game was very poorly optimized. So I just show you my tweak settings in order to get close to 60 frames per second, but don't expect 60 constantly because this game is, as I said, poorly optimized. That's why I tweaked the settings a little bit in order to make it close to 60 at 1080p. It's not perfect in any way, but at least it's way more stable than when I played it back in the day on the 750 Ti. Just avoid physics, which destroys performance, and the VSync option, just use an external VSync solution. The one in the game just caps it at 30 frames per second every now and then. It's not really very comfortable. Just use adaptive VSync from the media control panel and it will be way better than the VSync shown in the options menu.
Git. Where's he running to?
Follow and I'll kill you!
We could work together on this!
Keep your distance!
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed Rogue, and this one was released at the same time as Assassin's Creed Unity, or very close to that date, for PS3 and Xbox 360, since Assassin's Creed Unity is not on those consoles. And this one I can run it at 1440p. I just turned it off volumetric fog, lowering ambient occlusion to SSAO, turning off motion blur. It was enough to maintain 60 frames per second the big majority of the time. There are ship battles and fortresses, just like on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, but it's winter. In my opinion, this is one of the most fun I had on Assassin's Creed, because it's very similar to the fourth one, so I recommend you give this one a try. But yeah, so far it runs better than Assassin's Creed 4. Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed Liberation HD. This was a game made for the PlayStation Vita, so it was a portable game. I got a remastered version, which is what I'm testing right now. And so far I was able to run it at 1440p, max settings, excepting anti-aliasing. For some reason the anti-aliasing in this game is very intensive. If you keep anti-aliasing on the maximum, you get like half the frame rate. So just turn off anti-aliasing, select 1440p, the rest maxed out, and you'll be getting 60 frames per second all the time. I didn't do 4K because it dropped below 60 frames per second, but if you don't mind something like 30 to 45 FPS, 4K will do just fine. I'll talk to you again in the next game.
Hey! Drill!
Now we got into the current gen games. This is Assassin's Creed Unity. This one had a lot of trouble when it was first released, but now it's a lot better with a lot of patches that were released. Still not perfect, but you can play it way smoother than on release, which is always good. And I'm using pretty much high settings with ambient occlusion on HPAO+, which is an NVIDIA GameWorks thing. And so far we're over 30 frames per second all the time. You can crank it up even higher, but I find this game way smoother by just playing at 40 frames per second instead of 30. The frame pacing in this game at 30 frames per second doesn't seem correct, which makes the game feel very laggy, so I recommend staying over 35 frames per second if possible. The game feels way better to play and it still looks very good, and for some reason the first enemy I attack makes the game just stutter like for a second, then it runs just fine. I'm going to talk to you again in the next game.
Autant d'agitation. À l'odeur, je suis là, avisé. Tuer dans sa taverne. Difficile à dire. Dragon à la nouvelle recette. Que diable c'est? C'est votre bras. Je n'ai rien fait de mal.
Now I'm testing Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and on this one I'm doing again 1080p by using very high settings. Environment quality is one step below the maximum, textures is maxed out, shadows is on high, which is the highest setting before the NVIDIA GameWorks features, which are a very big hit to the frame rate. You have PCSS shadows, which in my opinion are not worth it. And finally on ambient occlusion we have HPAO+ and HPAO+ Ultra. That's the only thing I'm using from the NVIDIA GameWorks features, HPAO+. And on the anti-aliasing option we're using FXAA. So while this game, like on Assassin's Creed Unity, I recommend staying above 35 frames per second if possible. It makes the game feel way smoother, because it seems that Ubisoft didn't do a good job with the frame pacing at 30 frames per second. It doesn't seem correct. So with the settings I chose, the game looks very good and it runs at around 40 to 50 frames per second. Going in a carriage is usually a way to destroy the frame rate when you are hitting other carriages and just going very fast through the map. Other than that, the game runs pretty good, considering that is the one after Assassin's Creed Unity. So I'm going to talk to you again in the next game. And finally, I'm testing Assassin's Creed Origins. This is the latest one in the series so far, at least at the time of making this video, and I'm using pretty much the highest settings. Just one thing is not maxed out, which is environment details. I just lowered that from ultra high to high, the rest is completely maxed out on 1080p, and I'm getting over 30 frames per second most of the time. There might be a drop or two to 27 when there's a lot going on. I'm just running in Alexandria, which is a big hit to the CPU and GPU because there's a lot of detail in just one place. And every now and then I'll just look very far into the distance using the anvil just to look around because there's a lot of detail in the distance, and that should give us an idea on how the game performs. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Out of the way!
Hey, block the way! Give me time to get loose!
Γαμώ το διάβολε, γαμίδες από το πάνω στο πάνω. Κοντέματα άφασα η εργασία μου, άφασα το όχι διάσκετη πρέπει. Παιδες, διόδια.
Τι σφακή είναι! Παύλε, αμελή άνθρωπε!
Κεραυναίων δια! Τίον τούτο έστι!
Watch out, coming through!
Move!
Think you're something special, idiot?
Τι συμβάν, παιδες!
Λάξ, σι ελάβνη χρήου γιγνέστε.